That's Marcellus Wiley.
All right.
I'm Jason Whitlock, and welcome to Speak for Yourself, the most fearless show on sports television. Coming up, we'll tell you how Mike Tomlin just put a world of pressure on himself, but we begin today with the NFL Draft. New York Giants general manager Dave Gettleman's meant to be enjoyed, not understood. Gettleman is the three-eyed raven. He's Bran from the HBO hit TV show Game of Thrones. No one understands Bran, where he gets his power, why he gets his power, why he's received so much screen time over the last 10 years of Game of Thrones. Do we really know why the evil Night King wanted Bran? We've learned to accept Bran without explanation. We should do the same thing for Dave Gettleman, the man being skewered for taking Duke quarterback Daniel Jones with the 6th pick in Thursday's draft. Here's Giants superfan Joe Budden reacting like many other Giants fans to the news of the New York Giants taking Jones. Total devastation. The NFL draft is the greatest mystery in sports. There's no such thing as a sure thing. Jamarcus Russell was the first pick of the 2007 draft. Tom Brady was the 199th pick of the 2000 draft. Who knows? Mel Kiper has spent the last 30 years of his life devoted to the NFL draft, and he's only right 10% of the time. The draft is a lottery. Maybe Gettleman picked the right numbers. Gettleman told Peter King, quote, "The bottom line is I have confidence in what I do and who I am. I've been a part of organizations that have had pretty good quarterbacks, Jim Kelly, John Elway, Kerry Collins, Eli Manning, Cam Newton. I've been a part of teams that went to 7 Super Bowls. I had a hand in some of them, but today there's no patience and there's no room for civil discourse in our society, which I find sad." On paper, this pick looks absolutely stupid. Daniel Jones was pretty average at quarterback at Duke. Conventional wisdom says the Giants could have snagged Jones later in the first round or perhaps even at the top of the second round. Gettleman believes at least 2 teams would have grabbed Jones before the Giants picked again at 17. The draft is filled with lies and misinformation. It's a big game of poker. Maybe the other teams at the poker table bluffed Gettleman into raising his ante for Jones. We simply do not know, but we live in a media environment where we must pretend we know nearly everything beyond a shadow of a doubt. I'm as guilty of this as anyone, but I try to avoid this sin on draft day. 26 players were selected ahead of Dan Marino in the 1983 draft, including Todd Blackledge at number 7 by the Kansas City Chiefs. Brian Bosworth was the top pick in the 1987 supplemental draft. No one thought the Boz would be the bust. I'm willing to wait 2 or 3 years before declaring Gettleman an imbecile for selecting Jones. We just don't have enough information now to make that declaration. All right, joining the desk now is Fox Sports NFL analyst Mark Schlereth and former Pro Bowl receiver TJ Houshmandzadeh. Marcellus, I'll start with you. Is the criticism of Gettleman overblown?
Woo, tough one. But it's not overblown. If you think about it, you got to come at them because this is the game we play. The crapshoot called the draft. You get into this moment. It's a game that we all know that, like any other game, you got to go out there and let it play itself out. What Gettleman did was bet on someone that I bet Joe Budden and many people never saw play in college. I mean, that's just how the game, speaking of the game, everyone's reaction, not knowing what this guy has in terms of attributes. This is a 6'5" former basketball great, they say, that can move around. So Eli Manning with legs, but didn't have great stats at Duke and didn't necessarily show everybody that he should have been picked this high in the draft. But you know what was upsetting about this moment, you know, the post-draft reaction? Avengers is out, breaking every record, damn it, right? Imagine somebody walk up to you, you watching Avengers, and 10 minutes into it, they're like, "Hey, tell me what you think of this movie. Review it." You're like, "Can I finish watching it?" No. What do you think right now? We are literally walking up to the New York Giants and Gettleman saying, and to everybody who watches sports and football, what do you think of him right now? What do you think of Jones? Let it play out. I'm with you, Whitlock. I got enough patience to see this.
See, that's the difference between you and me. I can look at a movie poster and tell you exactly what kind of movie that is. I can look at, no, that ain't no good. That's going to be a terrible movie. So that's the difference. Here's the deal with Gettleman. I'm 100% with you. I have no idea. If Daniel Jones may have the highest ceiling in this draft, I have no idea. Here's the deal, though. If you love the dude, if you think the dude's generational, if you think he's going to be the next Eli Manning, only athletic, then double down on the damn thing and say, man, did you marry the kid or you just want to date him? Because you drafted him, you're married to him. Don't say, hey, we knew, we had intel that 2 other teams liked him and we were afraid he wouldn't get by 17. No, I took him at 6 because he's damn good and he's had the highest ceiling in this draft. End of story. Quit asking me questions about him. That's Dave Gettleman's problem. Don't try to satisfy everybody. You're talking about there is no civil discourse, right? You allow people to criticize you because you don't set your foot down and say, this is where I want to go. This is the guy that I think's generational. And you know what? We move forward. And then you shut everybody up.
We live in a microwave society, and you want everything to be instant. And so you look what he says, and he says, the bottom line is I have confidence in what I do and who I am. If that was true, he wouldn't be explaining why he picked it.
Right.
It's as simple as that. If you say, I have confidence in what I do and who I am, exactly what you just said. I chose him 6 because I think he was the best quarterback outside of Kyler Murray, and he's on our team. You don't sit here and explain why you did this and why you did. If you have confidence in what you do and how you are as an evaluator, you stick to it. You don't explain to anybody.
I disagree with that, and I think that's wrong when you map in your job security is tied to you making a pick and a selection of an individual. Here's the thing about people. Never bet on people because 2 things will happen. You're going to be right and you're going to be wrong. Think about it. Profile. Kid in the hood. Statistic, oh, he ain't going to make it. Guess what? You're right. And guess what? Say that again about a different kid with the same profile. He ain't going to make it. That dude turned out to be a CEO of a company. Then you're like, so you never know. We just had conversations about there are no surefire picks when you look at it in terms of that. Why would you do that?
But when you're talking NFL draft, it's easy for me to pick the guy that everybody thinks is good because if he's a bust, we all thought he was the best.
Yeah.
So I can cover my butt that way and say, oh, we all thought Kyler Murray was the -- quarterback. So if he's a bust with the Cardinals, so be it. Everybody thought he was the best. Nobody thought Daniel Jones was the 2nd best quarterback. Nobody.
And that's why
except for him.
That's why he won't go in, like you guys said, with full confidence.
And that's the thing. If he is a bust, he needs to be held accountable for this.
He's a quarterback.
No. Marcellus, I'll say this. What they're arguing, which I agree with, and I tend to still side on us. I think the criticism's overblown. But as coaches tell you all the time as defensive players, I can live with a mistake, an aggressive one. Don't give me some half-hearted, This is if he's making a mistake, I would prefer for it to be ultra aggressive. I believe in this quarterback. This is why I made this
None of you guys will ever be the agent of a coach or general manager because that's not professionalism at his job, at his level. Professionalism at his level is risk averse. That means make the selection, actions speak louder than words, and then keep it close to the vest, everything else. Because when we write this story, whether it's a good story or bad story, we're going to marry you to this. So he's trying to say, look, marry me to the pick. And if he blows up, that's what I picked. And if you marry me to the pick and he doesn't and he fails, guess what? Well, you know what? I made it a choice. It was a risky choice. It didn't work out, but we're going to recover. He's already doing what you need to do in that position.
He ain't going to get another chance.
No. Oh, no, he will.
Please.
If you think about why wouldn't he get another chance? He's not been a part of the Giants in the last 2 years when they only won 8 games. That's not on his record. He's coming in to change things around. So if you're Gettleman, you're like, I don't have a clean slate because my reputation precedes me from Carolina, but also all of this issue with the Giants is not all on my resume.
Yeah, I think the one thing you have to understand is Dave Gettleman, and Dave was in Denver when I played in Denver. Dave is a build the team from the inside out. That's his philosophy. He departed from his philosophy. If you're going to depart from your philosophy, you say, I departed from my philosophy because I found a generational player. End of story. Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. I didn't feel like taking 17 and trading up. You know why? Because when I took this team over, it was in a shambles. And we need as many draft picks as possible. We need draft capital, and we've got to use that draft capital. So I took my franchise quarterback, my generational quarterback at 6. It's going to take a couple of years, but that's where I went, and then I got another good player at 17. End of story.
All right, there's a second layer to this because it's not just that Daniel Jones wasn't expected to go that high, people had him pegged, the Giants pegged, for taking Dwayne Haskins, a kid from right there in the New Jersey area, had a lot of success at Ohio State. Marcellus, the question to you, will the Giants regret passing on Dwayne Haskins, who later went 14 to Washington?
No, I don't think they're going to regret it. And right now.
15, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Dwayne Haskins made it easy for them to say, see, this is why we didn't pick your butt. Because as soon as he gets picked, first thing he talking about, the league's in trouble. The league done messed up. The league messed up? First of all, the league ain't even drafted yet. Like, 14 people went before you, brother, not the league. And second of all, I remember when my coach, we were acting up in Jacksonville. Coach put us all in the room. He grabbed a big undrafted offensive lineman, 6'7", 350, put him on the whiteboard next to it, and then he drew the shield, the NFL shield, real small, too, real little, itty-bitty, NFL. He said, which one's bigger, that 6'7", 350 dude or that shield? And we were like, we don't know what to say because we already in trouble. He said, that shield. Don't ever think you bigger than the damn shield. Don't ever think you bigger than the league. Like, what you're doing, Dwayne Haskins, is doing what Josh Rosen did. How'd that turn out in terms of conversation? Because when they find something comparable to you, then they start looking at other variables and attributes and elements, and this is what you're doing. You're giving them fuel to the fire of not really sold on the professionalism of Dwayne Haskins.
I don't think they're going to regret not drafting Dwayne Haskins, and it's not because of what you said. Dwayne Haskins was a one-year starter at Ohio State. It's unknown. You don't know how good he's going to be. And for me, I like the fact that he said the league done messed. We want our athletes to be honest, but when you say how you feel, it's a problem. Same thing with Josh Rosen last year. If I feel the league is messed up, and he said that because his feelings was hurt that the Giants drafted Daniel Jones and not him, that's why he was directing it at the Giants. But guess what? You're going to get to play him twice a year now. So you can really prove your point if they really, it wasn't the league, it was the Giants he was referring to. Well, it's hard to say. It's hard. He started 1 year at Ohio State.
Right, not enough.
A quarterback that starts 1 year in college football, his success in NFL is not high.
Right. 50 touchdowns, though. He did put up big numbers. I'll tell you this. When you look at the direction the league is going in, would you rather have a pure pocket guy, and I think you still win championships with the pocket guys, but a guy that can manipulate the pocket, a guy that can move 6'5" and can flat out run, that's Daniel Jones, threatens the edge. And as far as a transitional aspect to the quarterback position, it gives you a smoother or easier transition when you can actually run some RPOs, run some read option stuff, get on the edge of a defense, because it gives you something else that you have to prepare for as a defensive end, as an outside linebacker, as a safety, and it opens up some of your run game. So it'll take some pressure off him initially. I'm not saying long-term it's better, but in the short term, it's probably better to have a great athlete back there.
And so I just want to be clear, because people do have stereotypes. Daniel Jones is the better athlete
Correct.
than Dwayne
Oh, by
Haskins.
far. Yeah.
Haskins is
By
a pure
far.
pocket guy. Listen, I'll say this. I don't – the spirit coming into the NFL, to me, should always be humble.
Thank you.
Always, because the league has humbled so many people. We've seen so many guys at the top of the draft or first-round guys that don't pan out. And so the league done messed up is just an immature thought. You're free to think whatever, but we all think a lot of dumb stuff that doesn't need to be spoken. And that's what I'm hearing from Dwayne Haskins.
You know what the saying is? There's two types of guys that play in the NFL. Those who are humble and those who are about to be. Right? Because let me tell you, we'll all get our butts wet.
I took it, he couldn't say it. He personally was he thought he was going to the Giants, and then for them to draft Daniel Jones.
But that's even more of a reason not to say anything, for the reason you said. You're going to play each other twice a year. You're both going into somewhat similar situations. You're going to Daniel Jones is going to have to wait because Eli's going to play. Haskins will probably play right off the top. But I just think a humble spirit will serve you best. Dwayne, you didn't check that box.
And that's why I don't like it. It's short-sighted and it's too emotional for a potential future face of your franchise. Think about how much of the toothpaste of Eli they still trying to get out the tube. In part because he's an ambassador. He represents the Giants and the brand well. And then you're talking about, are they going to regret passing on him? And then they hear statements like that and they're like, no. Because we need someone who be that ambassador once again for our franchise. And Dwayne, the issues of your father and that professionalism, that conversation, coupled with you saying that, just makes him look different.
Hey guys, Jason Whitlock here. Thank you for listening to the Speak for Yourself podcast. If you like what you hear, then you should take a minute to check out the Maybe I'm Crazy podcast hosted by The Herd's very own Joy Taylor. On the Maybe I'm Crazy podcast, you'll tap into a different take on the world of sports. Joy will break down all the biggest stories from the NFL, NBA, culture, in and out of sports, and everything in between. So subscribe now for a weekly episode of Maybe I'm Crazy every Tuesday night on your favorite podcast platform. Now back to the show. Let's move to a big story with the Steelers, who locked up Big Ben on a new deal last week after watching Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell walk away angry earlier this offseason. Whether they bet their future on the right superstar remains to be seen, but during the draft, Mike Tomlin made it clear he thinks losing Brown and Bell will prove to be addition by subtraction.
You know, there's been a cleansing, if you will, and I meant what I said when I said it. I didn't say it in an effort for it to be a cliche. I think when you're trying to compete at the level that we're trying to compete at and be world champs, that desire, that collective will is an element of it, the things that you can't measure. And I think that guys that really have a strong desire to be a part of it and put their hand in the pile is a significant element of that.
Yeah, I think the Steelers have put Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger, but I'm going to remove Ben because he's got a contract extension. Tomlin doesn't. They've put Mike Tomlin in position to be a great leader and to move this team forward without any of the distractions. And so I think there's a lot of pressure that goes along with that. And so the question here is, confident that Mike Tomlin will take advantage of this cleansing?
Confident, yeah, I am confident. If you think about it, the whole crew example, everyone pulling in the right direction, we can go farther, right? So you get rid of the malcontents and everybody hands on deck. Even if you take a talent hit, you still got everyone pulling in the right direction. Should be a better example. However, the choir boys typically sing louder in the locker room than they do on the field. And here's the thing, when you take a talent hit in the NFL, it really comes into example when you start to go out there and play other teams that are pulling in the right direction. Think about it, like if you have a well-oiled machine and another team doesn't have issues and distractions in their well-oiled machine, then all of a sudden we start adding up talent, right? You took hit at the top, couple of hits at the top. So these guys got to go out there and be more than just good citizens, and that's yet to be seen. But I think Tomlin can get the most out of them.
I probably would disagree with you on that. And the reason is that when Antonio Brown was drafted, was he a malcontent? Was he a problem?
Nope.
No, he was quiet. He was like a fifth or sixth rounder, right? Fifth rounder? Sixth round pick. Yep. He was quiet. You know what happened under your tutelage? You let that monster grow. You let that celebrity take over, and you allowed it to happen under your watch. So why am I supposed to believe now all of a sudden we got rid of a problem? Because I know this about problems. You eliminate one problem, guess what? There'll be another to take its place. That's how problems work. And so you allowed that to happen under your watch. Now I'm going to sit there and watch you do a press conference and say, hey, man, you know, we got this thing where there's a cleansing now. Like, we got this thing under control now. Really? Because it got out of control under your watch. So unless you're willing to jump on that sword in front of your team and say, hey, listen, I allowed this to happen as your head coach, and that's never going to happen again, and we will hold each other accountable, and we will be pulling in the same direction. Unless you're willing to do that, then I don't have a lot of faith in you.
You know what? I actually do believe he'll take advantage of the cleansing, and this is why. He did let Antonio Brown kind of grow into this, but his best playmakers on the offense side of the ball are James Conner and Juju. He's not even remotely going to let them get anywhere to how Antonio Brown was. He's going to nip it in the bud right now. And they know it, too. They know it. By him coming out, Juju's my best receiver. James Conner's my best running back. I don't think that's in their DNA to do it. But if it is, I'm stopping it immediately. There's no way I'm even let it get remotely close to this. And so that's why I believe, and what you said is 100%. Everybody can't be a choir boy. You got to have a few malcontents on the team and hope the choir boys keep them in check. You can't have a bunch of just guys that's doing the right thing. You got to have
Today's
NFL.
Today's NFL.
On every team.
You don't buy that?
On
every team.
Every single team, there's guys.
You need somebody to mix it up with.
And those guys that are doing the right thing will go to him and be like, hey, come on, man, we need you to chill. All right, I got you. It's on every team. You just
Hey,
don't hear
say it,
anything
say it,
about
Swerve,
it.
admit it.
Hey, there are 5 touch guys on every team.
Every team.
And every team needs a couple guys like me to babysit. Like, right?
Exactly.
It's the truth.
That's how it works.
Listen,
It's true.
I'm not confident. I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I think that's good.
My bet on the Steelers this year is that they're going to win the AFC North and that they're going to be really, really in the mix for to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. I see them in the AFC Championship. I'm a hopeful, optimistic person. Again, that's not confidence speaking. That's the better in me, that if I had to bet which way Mike Tomlin's going to roll with this, I'm going to bet that he's going to take advantage of this. Not super duper confident because of what Mark said, and because TJ, where I'll disagree with you is like what Juju and James Conner and anybody that's been in that locker room more than 2 years has seen is like, oh, if you can make plays, they're gonna tolerate a lot.
Do you think
This
that's
or-
their DNA? I know, Juju.
No.
Like, if it's not
They're
in their
not built
DNA,
like that.
they not really gonna push the envelope like that.
Bacon grease wasn't in my DNA, but I learned to enjoy it.
Yeah. let me ask you this. They went ahead and extended Ben Roethlisberger, right? They extended Ben Roethlisberger. At the same time, they allowed Ben Roethlisberger to go on his radio show and call people out, call his teammates out. Like, do you think now that he's got even more money and more security, Mike Tomlin's going to put a stop to that?
And more
Ben's
power.
already said he's not doing the radio show
that's
this
done.
year.
Well,
But you know what though,
They
Ben?
paid for that. Here's some
Ben
You don't have
knows
to do it on
how-
a radio show. You can be
I agree.
ticked off after a game, and you can say something that doesn't sit well with all the rest
But
of the
I
guys
think
in
he
your locker.
knows how he's viewed. He's going to try to. I think he's going to try
Yeah.
to be the good cop this year and try to say, listen, it wasn't me. It was those guys. And
Well,
you see the difference now.
It's going to be easier to be a good cop because they cleaned up the neighborhood. It's a cleansing, right?
Right.
All the people got put away. And you think about it, this is why you got to have full confidence in Tomlin. 1, second most wins as an active head coach. 2, he's betting on the adage of attitude determines altitude. So I got good attitudes in here, we're going to be better. And then 3, if you look at it, look at all the mini soap operas and drama reality shows that are built into their great players. If you talk about Ben Roethlisberger, he has to ball because you got rid of your 2 stars for what? It's all on you. If you talk about Juju, are you really a number 1? Well, he has to ball because if not, Antonio just waiting on Twitter to go blast him, right? And James Conner, even though he's been a good citizen, not really caught up in it, if he fails, I can see Le'Veon and others just looking at him like, that's what y'all gave up on. So I think everyone's going to be motivated fully to go out there and be their best.
Here's what I think about Ben Roethlisberger is he's going to be the same guy he's always been. I don't think he's going to be on his best behavior. I think they gave him a contract extension, and the general managers came out and said, get in line and fall behind Ben. And so Ben's going to be more of a leader. And whether that's good or bad, whatever he thinks is good leadership, he's going to exhibit more of that. Who knows how successful it'll be? What I would like to hear, the thing that would get me to confident rather than hopeful, is if Tomlin and Ben had a press conference together. So, me and him haven't always been on the same page, but in 2019 and moving forward, we're ride or die.
we
We
might
are
just
together.
see that because of you. We might just
Look,
see that.
that would give me confidence.
training
So
camp, we
I
might
think
see
this
it.
is one of the things you have to understand. You talked about Juju, and he seems like a great kid, and same with Connor, what he's been through. Those guys, I don't have any doubt that they're going to be okay. But character is what drives talent towards greatness. It's not the other way around. Talent never drives character. Character drives the talent. And if your character is questionable, especially at the quarterback position, and you have that in you when things aren't going your way to point the finger instead of pulling the thumb, that doesn't go away. That when you get into that crucible, man, it gets exposed, and that would be my concern for this organization.
Yeah, and that's why I say if I'm Tomlin and really the cleansing, the removal of AB and Le'Veon Bell, that's not the real cleanse. The real cleanse is he and Ben Roethlisberger being on the same page, and Ben and him being lockstep on what leadership is and how we're going to hold each other accountable and hold the rest of the team accountable. That's the real cleanse. It's great. I think you have a better chance of getting that to happen now that Le'Veon and AB are gone. But that has to happen. Tomlin and Ben on the same page. Joined now by NBA analyst Cuttino Mobley. Let's move to the NBA playoffs, where the Warriors battled their way to a win in a bumpy Game 1 against the Rockets last night. Houston definitely had a chance to steal the game, but didn't help their cause by losing it on the refs down the stretch after a series of what they thought were missed fouls on James Harden's three-pointers. After the game, Harden was still pleading his case.
I just want a fair chance, man. Call the game how it's supposed to be called, and that's it. And I'll live with the results. But when you, especially we all know what happened, a few years back with Kawhi, like that can change the entire series. Just call the game how it's supposed to be called, and we'll live with the results. And it's plain and simple.
I've been fouled by James on a James three-pointer before. I ain't trying to hear that. Nah, I ain't going with that one. I'm straight. It is what it is. I think we can all sit here and complain about calls after every game. That's just the nature of the game we play. Refereeing isn't an exact science, so it is what it is. Nah, I'm a contested shot. I got a contested shot. When you land 3 feet ahead of where you shoot the ball from, that ain't really my issue.
All right, the NBA released its 2-minute report today, and they say there were 3 incorrect calls in the final 2 minutes, all against the Rockets, but they did rule James Harden's three-pointer at the end of the game was correctly called as not being a foul. All right, the question here is, what was worse, the officiating or how the Rockets handled the officiating?
The officiating, and if they could continue to tweet, let's talk about the other minutes, especially the first half, the 3 egregious non-calls. I agree with exactly what they said. There were 3 incorrect calls. The one at the end, James Harden and Draymond, which Draymond was talking about, I get it. But this just feels like a classic case of when the officials, and they go over their reviews of the games and what to look for, they also say what not to fall sucker for. And I think they came out in that first half and they were like, we're not getting baited into this 3-point fouling situation. And they actually didn't make the correct call. So James Harden, who had 95 three-pointers this year, had fouls committed against him, most in the NBA. 5 in the series just last time against the Utah Jazz, and then they come out and just swallow the whistle. I'm with James Harden and his gripes. The officials got it wrong. The NBA even took notice.
It just was, Bleacher's Report came out about there was 81 calls missed last year's Western Conference Finals. 81 of them, missed calls against the Rockets. Now, me being, Marcellus, us being professionals, you a game or 2 away from going to finals. And sometimes you go to the finals like LeBron James, 8 straight, whatever it is, whoever, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry. Sometimes you don't even make it. So when it's situations like this where one call can dictate a series, a situation, how you play next, what do you do? I feel bad for James because you can't get back last year, especially when Chris get hurt. Then now I feel bad.
You think the officiating was worse than how they handled it?
It's not saying it was, yes, it was worse, but this is the thing. If you watch back at the game, there was 8 times that I saw James get fouled where a guy underneath his feet. Now, the last one with Draymond Green, because he kicked his legs, Jason, it's right. If you go shoot a jump shot and I go straight up and down as a defender, not worried about it. If you go shoot a jump shot and I'm always coming towards the bottom of your feet, it's very scary. That's a scary thing. So now my concentration to shoot the ball is totally different now. I'm worried about how I land. So, yeah, that was a little exaggerated by James with Draymond, but still Draymond goes into James. Draymond doesn't go up and down. Draymond goes into James, okay? So for James to feel the way, it's reasonable. Chris, it's reasonable.
I don't like the way they handled it because anything they do after the game, I got no problem with. Stand up on that press conference and
that's what I just
rave. They got 3 technical fouls in a 4-point game.
Because they understand how important
in a 4-point game,
I know.
They gave away 3 points.
Right.
I don't like the way they handled it. Control what you can control. You can't control the officials.
Maybe it's something. You never been where it's like it was referees or a team you played and you were that close again and you see the same thing about to happen again. Yeah. So emotional, we're human beings. Emotionally, things happen where you're like, you know what, you're not going to steal this from us again.
The
but
great
you get angry.
performers in any endeavor control their emotions. When Michael Jackson or whoever was performing on stage, trust me, all sorts of things went wrong. But when I'm a customer, I don't care that the audio is off. I don't care that they didn't, the bass player didn't hit the right note. I want to see a great performance. Control what you can control. All kinds of bad things happen to Michael Jordan, to Tom Brady, to LeBron, to the great performers. They control what they can control.
I don't want that
during
to keep
the
happening.
contest.
I don't want that to keep. 81 missed calls. 81 the last year. They could have been in the finals.
This isn't the Saints.
But what's worse is, as one missed call, two missed calls,
Exactly.
then you talk to the officials, they're like, yeah, we're missing these calls.
you
Then
come
we
back
missed
at
the next call. You sitting there like, wait a minute.
You come back
and
at halftime?
D'Antoni said that after the game. He said, I talked to him at halftime, and they said that they were missing calls. And then it came out in the second half, they're missing calls again. And NBA even comes out and said they're
It's
missing
a butterfly
calls.
effect.
Come on now.
Again, and so Mike D'Antoni, to me, or Daryl Morey, the general manager of the Houston Rockets, needs to sit his team down and explain to them what's going on. Again, basketball, the NBA is no different than the NFL. It's a television show. And the television show the NBA ran during the regular season wasn't very exciting to the viewers. Ratings are down, and this Houston style of play, of baiting everybody into fouling them and blah, blah, it's bad television. And so, as the executives running that television show, I'm sure Adam Silver, as the showrunner for the NBA TV show, told the referees, hey, man, this is a playoff. We gotta have an exciting brand of TV that doesn't run off our viewers. And someone needs to explain that to Houston. The calls you were getting in the regular season, that bad TV show that won us a lot of games, but it's bad TV, they're not going to allow this because ESPN has paid us $2 billion and ESPN and ABC have paid us all this money. TNT's paid us all this money. We got to put on a better TV show. So adjust.
Now, look, that's to my first point of they have that pregame meeting, points of emphasis, things to not get caught up and suckered into. Here's the thing, and it's funny, there's a grain of truth in every joke. And you talking about how the Rockets handled it. Let's see how Steve Kerr is handling this situation right now, kind of poking the bear. Be careful, because you can unswallow those whistles in game 2. Steve Kerr comes out there and gives his guys basically a license. Hey, we getting away with it. And then he comes out, this is how they act in the flame. Like, okay, I'm fine with that. But you know, that showrunner, Adam Silver, could be like, man, we got to write tweets talking about we need to correct the calls and things were wrong in the last 2 minutes and further. Be careful, Steve Kerr, because you're giving your guys a license, because they all were violators. They just didn't get caught and called on those violations.
That's all it was. Like, listen, I agree when you speak about the ESPN and the money and Adam Silver, blah, blah, blah. That could be conspiracy, it could be true. I don't know.
That's not a conspiracy. Those are just facts.
No, I'm saying,
TV
we don't,
show, but
listen,
go ahead.
that's not a fact. It's something that.
It is a TV show.
Well, it's not a TV show.
It is a damn TV show. It's beyond a TV show. They sell us some playoffs and we get more money and they get way more.
I'm asking you this.
Super Bowls and
when you watch those 8 times Klay Thompson or Draymond Green contested or Shaun Livingston contested, were they fouls? I'm asking you that. That's it.
Yes.
Well, they were fouls.
Regular season fouls.
No, I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you in this first season, were they fouls?
You know they change up the referee in the
I understand that, but if you give a dog table food all day long for 82 games, you can't tell me he can't have table food now when I come in with some real good food. No, you can't do that. That's not what you do.
James Harden's not a dog. He is able to be trained to play a different way very easily.
Well, if he's not a dog, dogs get trained.
Oh, it's going to happen in game 2.
Athletes get trained too.
No, listen.
Conditioning.
James Harden got fouled.
Every time.
Y'all said he got fouled.
Yeah.
So if he got fouled in the postseason, so I'm asking you, I just asked you that.
What?
Out of the 8 times in
the regular season, those were fouls.
I'm asking you about this first postseason game you just watched.
The officiating was bothersome to me, but the way they handled it was far worse. You have to continue to keep your focus.
But I just explained that.
It was a very close game.
But I explained that to you.
They got these technical fouls and gave away
It's not
points.
easy to get to the finals, and I explained that to you. Sometimes, yes, the emotions may, got ahead of them, but it's not easy to get to the finals, and Chris Paul knows that. James Harden knows
Did I argue that it was easy?
No, but what I'm saying is you tell me some keep your emotions. I may never get here again. So I got my energy, my emotions. What do you want me to control? You want me to be this
He's
patient
saying
as
context
possible?
matters, so you got to know the context. This is playoff. It's going to slow down, and we're not calling on everything.
But my point is,
and you learn that between games sometimes,
but when
not necessarily in the game.
81 times last year in the Western Conference Finals, they got it wrong. This year, in the first half, there was 4 calls they said was wrong. You come back and you tell D'Antoni that was our fault, and you still don't do that. I'm upset.
That's what D'Antoni said happened.
No, referees do that. That's what they do. They come in halftime. Katina, we missed it. Steve, we missed it. We're sorry about that. We're going to look out for you next time.
Next game.
What are you going to do? Next game.
Not next
That game is gone.
You've never been misled, lied to,
all day long.
led astray, bamboozled.
We ain't going there again. No, don't do that one again. No.
Back with us. Time for our favorite segment, Antisocial.
Man.
Darnell Smith, what's popping?
What up, D?
What's going on? I'm feeling good. It's Monday. We're going to get straight to it, though. Start with the NFL draft.
Yep.
Where Nick Bosa went number 2 overall to the 49ers and gained a lot of new fans over the weekend, including President Trump, who tweeted, "You'll be a great player for years to come, maybe one of the best. Big talent. San Francisco will embrace you, but most importantly, always stay true to yourself. Make America great again." Twitter got upset that Trump shouted out the number 2 pick, Bosa, but not the number 1 overall pick, Kyler Murray. But don't forget, Bosa had already called Trump the GOAT on Twitter before. So are you guys surprised Trump congratulated Bosa but not Kyler?
No. Trump is very easy to read.
Right.
Whoever supports him, he supports.
I got love for those who love me. Simple as that. Kyler Murray, tweet you voted for Trump or you support Trump. Grandma always said you can't make sense out of nonsense. And these are the moments that make me just get farther away from Twitter. When they make that calculation, like, oh, why are you going to congratulate number 2? I'm like, did you know he actually is just returning the favor, returning the love?
All Nick Bosa has to say is one negative thing about Trump, and he'll be all over Twitter dog cussing Nick Bosa.
Exactly.
Just dog cussing him.
No surprise at all, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
Stop.
It's what it is.
Stop. Come on. Do better, Twitter.
All right, moving on to Miami's newest player, Josh Rosen, who still made time to show out at Larry Fitzgerald's celebrity softball game this weekend. Even after getting traded to the Dolphins, Rosen got a standing ovation and crushed a bunch of homers, and then posted a great video to his followers online. Check this out.
Cardinals fans, thank you so much for all of the continued support this past year. I know we didn't win as many games as we all would have hoped, but I had an unbelievable time here in the desert. Kyler, one more thing, an awesome 2-bedroom in Old Town just came onto the market, so let me know if you're interested, and I think I could get you a pretty good deal.
I'm
glad,
glad Rosen's handling this whole thing well, but do y'all think he got a raw deal?
Yeah, I do think he got a raw deal, but I think he made it a bit rawer. He came into the league with the wrong spirit, and I think that's probably why Arizona soured on him real quick. 9 mistakes made in front of me. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, man, earlier about Dwayne Haskins. When they go into the evaluation room and there are comps, and if you're close to someone on the field, then they start looking at everything else. And he just gave him ammunition off it. Yeah, he's got a raw deal. It's amazing in sports. You could be a late bloomer in high school, late bloomer in college. That pro level boy, they don't give you no late bloomer. No, remember back when we got drafted, it was like give him a year or 2, let him blow up. I had 0 sacks my first year. Whoa, I'm glad I went with the Cardinals. They would have get that boy up out of here. Man, give me some time to blow up. I'm gonna get there. Crazy.
Hey, listen, as far as I was there, good for him. Did he get a raw deal? Yeah, I mean, he got a raw deal in that Arizona is a bad football team. I mean, they have a bunch of guys that were playing up front in front of him that retired, didn't tell anybody. Like they literally, they were retired last year, didn't tell him. So, and Larry Fitzgerald's a GOAT. He's one of the greatest I've ever watched play. Like when at 15 years or whatever it was last year, when he is kind of your most dynamic movement guy, like you got an issue. You got an issue as a football team. Yeah, I don't care who you are. You weren't having success behind that offense.
He got a raw deal, but he seems to be in a better situation in Miami. You're going to have better receivers, better skill guys. He seems to be in a better place, so good for him.
Yeah. I'm going to say this. Steve Wilkes got a much rawer deal.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, man. That's what Arizona does, and they just raw deal everybody.
Wait.
All right, moving to a guy who should be Uncle Jimmy's big dummy of the weekend, LaShawn McCoy, who thought it'd be a smart decision to give out arguably the biggest movie spoiler of all time. For those of you who haven't seen the new Avengers yet, I'm not going to ruin it for you like Shay did for me. But Twitter obviously wasn't happy, making all kinds of gifts in response to his tweet. I personally want an apology from McCoy here, but do y'all think spoilers on social media are fair game? Come on,
I don't have a problem with spoilers on social media, man.
On the day
I don't have a problem with it. If you don't want to see it, don't look. Get off Twitter.
Reach. I am with Whitlock. I'm going to see it tomorrow. Even if you didn't black out that, I was like, all right, that's on me because I should have saw it earlier, damn it. And it's crazy. The reason why I don't have a problem with spoilers is because it's impossible to police them. When should you say it's okay to watch it or it's okay to spoil it? A week out there, 2 weeks? Like somebody else is gonna sit there and say, man, I ain't seen it yet. Give me a couple weeks. So
there should be, though. There should be. Like, we should have a standard, right?
Right.
It's like, how much longer are you gonna say Happy New Year? Like, some people in March will tell you Happy New Year. Like, dude, that was like, come on. There's got to be a statute of limitations. Like, you got to give them at least like a week before you start spoiling
It was the
things.
day of.
So, Darnell, that's what we're going to do then. You got to put it out there, at least a 48-hour buffer then.
48 hours?
48-hour buffer.
And I'm good.
That still ain't enough time.
48 hours? Because you're going to see it tomorrow.
It's sold out for a week. How you even gonna get it?
You Marcellus.
I mean, that you better recognize. You that dude. You better recognize.
There you go.
But you know what, Mark? I'd rather people say Happy New Year in March than this new thing that everybody walks up to you. Happy Monday. Oh my God. Happy Tuesday. Like every day is a happy day. What happened to just hello? Why do you gotta make every day a happy day? I hate them people. I'll be cursing you out in my head. I'm telling y'all when I say Happy Monday. For real.
All right.
Nah, man, I'm good.
Time now for Darnell's question of the day. Darnell, take it away.
Every day.
All right, guys. In addition to Avengers, everyone is talking about last night's Game of Thrones, including
Awful.
Christian McCaffrey.
I'm sorry.
Oh, like that?
Christian McCaffrey called it the greatest TV episode of all time, period. And it got me wondering, what's your favorite TV show of all time?
Whitlock. It ain't Game of Thrones for Whitlock.
I know what Whitlock going to
What
say.
are you gonna say?
It's The Wire.
The Wire.
That's
Look at
the
him.
greatest show of
Well,
all time.
yep.
I would put The Shield and The Sopranos very close number 2.
You got a type too. Look at you. You like them cops, and gritty and gangsters. Mine, different strokes. No lie. Just
What you talking about, Marcellus?
What you talking about? Man, that Abraham, little fish, all that. Really, it was just the fact that they were from the hood, had the issues we know, they got adopted, and they just saw so much more of the world, but they kept themselves and grounded, and they kept the family intact. It just did a lot for me, man. Especially when I was growing up in the hood. I was like, I got to get me one of them staircases in my kitchen, too. Man, different strokes did it for me.
For me, it was Martin. Just laughing. You, anytime you're not feeling good, you turn on some Martin and, damn, Gina. you always going to get a laugh. So for me, it was Martin.
You know what? As an adult, I've never really been a TV guy. I was always watching stuff with the kids, you know? So I've never been like a TV guy. I remember in my childhood some shows I really liked. This is going to go way back. Wild Wild West.
Loved it.
With Jim West, you know?
Yeah.
And then I also loved, do you remember a show called The Night Stalker?
Yeah, I remember that.
I loved The Night Stalker when I was a kid, but I'm not a real big TV guy.
All right, guys, so I want to follow up on that and say, what's the most overrated show of all time?
Game of Thrones. I have not watched one, and I'm not giving it to y'all. Dragons.
You haven't watched.
Bam.
How about a show?
I've never seen Game
How about
of
a
Thrones
show?
either.
Okay, how about a show that you've heard a lot of hype about, tried to watch, and then was like, oh, I don't feel this.
Breaking Bad. I saw that first episode in the desert. I said, what are we doing here? Threw that DVD set out.
I'm going to go way back because my mama used to watch and MASH.
Oh, yeah, that
Dude,
is
I
the worst.
could not watch MASH. Just the lead up to it and the music and the murmur. Yeah, I'm like, what is this?
Early episodes of MASH
too.
Yeah, I haven't watched any Game of Thrones either. I always tell my guys in my radio show, I'm always like, OMGGOT. Do you believe what I go, you guys realize this ain't real, right?
Right.
The dragons and the Winter Warlock and whatever else. Like,
I'm going to tell you the show that the show Lost. Got all this hype.
Never watched it.
Some girl talked me into watching. I watched 17 episodes trying to figure it out.
You trying to figure her out.
Yeah.
17 episodes.
All 17 episodes.
Usually
horrible.
that's called marriage. That's what that
Who is she? She hella
all
convincing.
17 episodes.
Horrible.
You strong. You strong.
How'd you make 17 episodes if you didn't like
Because how could everybody be wrong?
He wanted to have something to talk about.
Yeah, unfinished business, y'all. He was trying. He like, come on, girl. One more episode. One more date.
Let's move to Milwaukee, where the Celtics didn't just upset the top seed Milwaukee in Game 1 yesterday. They actually blew them out by 22. Kyrie Irving had a big game, scoring 26, while MVP favorite, the Greek Freak, was held in check, putting up just 22 points. In fact, Boston was so dominant that Paul Pierce said after the game, the series is already over. I think that's probably a bit too much.
Because Paul Pierce said it.
But
Yeah.
It's over, but I do expect the Celtics to win this series.
It is over, and I understand people don't think it's an unbiased opinion coming from a former Celtic great like Paul Pierce, but it's about the message, not the messenger in this one. And it's funny because we all saw this coming in terms of what you can do in playoff basketball versus regular season basketball. We were talking about how the officials are different. Also, the game slows down. You get a well-coached Boston team, and they have guys who have been in that moment, like a Kyrie Irving. All of a sudden, you just saw them. Let's just pack the paint. Let's just attack Giannis, and then let's see what others can do. What others can do, that starting lineup went 30% from the field. 30%. And you think about what Giannis, who can't shoot reliably, what they did is just like, we're going to make you shoot and be reliable. And what happened is he couldn't live up to that moment just in game one. I think you're going to get much more of the same, and I don't think that collectively they'll respond.
I don't believe in Milwaukee, and there's no disrespect to Milwaukee. I just don't believe in them. Brunhauser, he did this in Atlanta, and then they got exposed in the playoffs. There's no adjustments. Mm-hmm. Now, Giannis never could shoot the ball. He dominated, not so much dominant, but he definitely did. He played really well during the season against Boston. It's no different. It's just that his supporting casts are not shooting well. Now, if you look at the tape, you look at the game, a lot of his turnovers or block shots or missed shots, he could have dished them out. Let's see him adjust this game, but I seriously doubt that Milwaukee's going to beat Boston in a Game 7.
To me,
no way.
Boston was the most impressive team over the weekend. And we've had this narrative going throughout the regular season that it's a hot mess in Boston. Mm-hmm. Kyrie wants out. Yeah. They get Gordon Hayward. They can't figure out what to do with him. Now it's all seeming to come together. Kyrie looks good. Gordon Hayward is starting to play well.
You know the key to that, though? Marcus Smart is out. So now that Marcus Smart is out, that's 20, 25 minutes that can be allocated throughout those wings, whether it's Gordon Hayward, whether it's Jaylen Brown, whether it's Rozier, right? So now they have more of those minutes, and it's consistency. So if I know that I'm not worried about Marcus, sharing time. I know after Kyrie, I'm coming in Rozier. Gordon Hayward, when Kyrie's out, Gordon Hayward becomes the facilitator, and Jason Tatum. Like, that's what the key is for Boston, in my opinion, that Marcus Smart is out now. Because when you had all those guys, it's hard to have a rhythm, and it's hard for those guys to really get play.
And that was one of the storylines coming into the season. Enough minutes for all the guys to keep them happy and to keep them engaged. And it's amazing. One of the storylines also is last year they didn't have Kyrie. We're a better team without Kyrie. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, you're not. And now you're witnessing that, the first series, those Kyrie moments. Kyrie, with the win yesterday with the Boston Celtics, has the most wins in terms of win percentage in NBA history. 772, 44-13 in terms of win percentage. Kyrie in the postseason, Kyrie, magical, like just and clutch on top of that. So he is the guy that you can say is reliable in these moments. Giannis is still learning how to be the MVP in those moments.
What happens when Marcus Smart coming back? What happens?
It's going to kill I think it kills the chemistry because again, basketball is a rhythm sport. Okay, so if that's a rhythm sport, and I know Jason's going to give me 30 minutes, I know Marcellus is going to give me 30 minutes, and I'm going to be the closer. Now all of a sudden, this guy comes back. Jason's minutes are not 30 no more. They're 20. They may be 17 because this guy may be playing a little better, so the coach is going to keep him in. When you have that type of disparity when it comes to the guys start thinking, those 4 shots that they miss, they probably can get it back if they had they consistent 30, now they only have 17. It kind of plays with your mind mentally. So I think having one of those guys out so the other guys can flourish is best for Boston.
And let's look at Boston. They hit that switch. Everyone talks about no one can hit the switch or it's dangerous. They played a dangerous game, and so far it looks good. The last 10 games, they've won 9 of those games. Opponents' points per game, 98, leading the league. Opponents' field goal percentage, 41%, leading the league. Yeah. They figured it out. Part of it is the chemistry.
If Jason Tatum was out, not Jason Tatum, if Jaylen Brown was out and Marcus Smart was healthy, they'd be doing well. Because if you have too much, sometimes too much is not good. And they think they had too much, and Marcus Smart being out is better.
Well, Giannis may be the likely MVP of the league this year, but he wasn't even close to an MVP yesterday, with huge drops across the board in his stats, including shooting a terrible 33% from the field, his worst shooting performance of the year, in a game where he took at least 15 shots. To me, I don't want to overheat and overreact, but I thought he got exposed a little bit by Al Horford. And Al Horford did this to Joel Embiid last year in the playoffs. I don't expect him to be an MVP performer during this series.
It's very. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, it's
go ahead.
It's just very. It's very tricky because Al Horford, yes, is a great defender, great role player, great star, blah blah blah, whatever you want to call him. But it's the Boston Celtics defense which helped Al Horford be at the top of the line with Joel Embiid because Al Horford can't guard him by himself. Right. When you see Giannis, look at that. Al Horford's not by himself. Those guys are swallowing in, so it makes Giannis make different moves, right? So now Al Horford can get back in front of him, can tip the ball, deflect or whatever. I'm not saying Al Horford is not a good defender. He's a really good defender. But Giannis is you need a team for him, and that's what Boston has is a team. And that's what Joel Embiid last year suffered because Boston Celtics, that Brad Stevens defense, you have the majority of that team that can play defense.
Yeah,
literally starters and the guys coming off the bench.
They had
They're
a lot of
players.
tremendous help defense, especially baseline support. Well, like you said, making them do different moves.
Yes.
They know what you like to do. Giannis, you like to spin into that baseline.
So not exposed.
Well, he got exposed.
Yeah.
And well, the league has exposed almost everyone.
Yeah.
If you can't shoot,
7 games.
like
Did
score.
he make like 3 threes yesterday?
I'm not sure if he made 3 threes, but
Shooting.
a lot of his shots, think about it, a lot of his shots were shots he usually makes. It's just that the rhythm of them is different. The rhythm of them is you playing Boston now. They sucking in the paint. So you can't just get to the basket, dunk it, get to the free throw line really quick, get your rhythm, and shoot a 15-footer so Al Horford can come up to you and he can get past him. They threw his rhythm off. I don't think they exposed him the way. He has to come back and think, and he says, now what I have to do is I have to pass it to my guys faster. So then now when they make their shots, I got Al by myself because those defenders won't help him as fast as they will. They were sinking in that paint on him, which makes him look like he wasn't knowing what he was doing. But once he adjusts his second game, you can tell more, I think.
It's tough to out-athlete in playoff basketball. Yeah. What you have to do is really outshoot. I mean, we even have moved from outscoring to outshoot. Think about it. Dame Dollar versus Russell Westbrook. Say what you want. It comes into, can you shoot better at the MVP of your team? Durant, versus the Clippers, and now you see it against the Rockets. You see it with Kyrie Irving. Like, can you shoot? Because if not, we can condense around you and force them to shoot. And if they're role players, plus, they're not going to perform as well. And it's just a situation like that Giannis is getting exposed, as we kind of been whispering. He needs to work on that jump shot offseason. Well, offseason is going to come a little sooner.
Yeah.
I would say more so, and look, he does have to. He's a young guy. He will elevate his game. But more than anything, don't you think they got to elevate the personnel around him?
For sure.
That's the number one thing. It's just one game. But if Boston takes them out in 5 or 6 games or even 7 games, I think it's a clear deal. Like, if Giannis is going to stay in Milwaukee, y'all better get him some support.
And it's funny because it's kind of like the equivalent to Giannis and Brook Lopez. Brook Lopez, in the beginning, was a post defender. I mean, a post offensive nightmare offensively. They don't even expose him when they have Brown on him
he's at the three-point line.
He's at the 3-point line. I would expose them, and they don't even do that where he's really good in the post. It seemed like Joel Embiid when he was when the Sixers were playing Brooklyn. Joel Embiid was out a game, and Ben Simmons he flourished.
Yeah.
The lane was open, and then he comes back. Then Simmons, you get 14 points, 12 points. You're not as impactful. And I think they need to start, again, like I said, Budenholzer, he needs to adjust. When you have those little guys on Brook Lopez, punish him. But guess what? Now where's Giannis going to be at? You want him to shoot 15-footers, 17-footers? You don't want that. So he has to get a jump shot like Ben Simmons, and then it opens it up.
All right, before we go, I'd like to say a word or two about Philadelphia rapper Meek Mill and the 76ers Raptors playoff game tonight. I'm very suspicious of anyone publicly whining about a Pennsylvania judge denying Meek Mill the right to travel to Canada to watch the game courtside. Under terms of his probation from a 2008 conviction for illegally possessing a gun and drug charges, Meek must get permission from the courts to travel outside the state. That permission has been denied, and Sixers owner Michael Rubin is upset the team won't have its human mascot tonight during a critical Game 2 matchup. Rubin is so upset that he posted a lengthy message on Instagram decrying the unfairness of it all, writing, quote, Judge Janice Brinkley, I know you have a vendetta against Meek Mill and are obsessed with trying to control every aspect of his life, But did you really not approve him to go to rep the Sixers in Toronto for the game? And most importantly, if this happens to Meek, what do you think happens to the average person who can't afford great lawyers, etc., on probation? The average person on probation isn't seeking permission to leave the country to watch a basketball game they can watch on TV. Meek isn't average. He's an elite with elite friends who travel the globe watching sporting events and partying. Michael Rubin is a stereotypical elite social justice warrior who believes in trickle-down social justice. You've never heard of trickle-down social justice? It's the close relative of trickle-down economics, the theory that was supported by conservatives that the better we make things for the rich, the better things will be for the poor. The left believes the exact same thing when it comes to social justice. You see, in Michael Rubin's mind, if Meek Mill is sitting courtside along Drake tonight, poor people sitting in American prisons tonight will feel more free. Eventually, Meek Mill's ability to sit courtside in gold chains will trickle down to the poor. Meek is a symbol of American oppression. He is the modern-day Nelson Mandela. In fact, his next album should be called Meek Mandela. The story of Meek will symbolize how far we've allowed, the story of Meek symbolizes how far away we've moved from reality and legitimate support of the poor. It's all just branding now. It's all a gimmick to increase our social media standing. Celebrity elites have turned Dr. King's dream into a nightmare. Let's move to Denver, where the Broncos added their second quarterback of the offseason, drafting Missouri's Drew Lock in the second round just a few weeks after trading for Joe Flacco. We all know John Elway has struggled to figure out the quarterback position, but he seems to think this latest move could be the solution. Comparing Flacco-Lock, that combination, to the Brett Favre-Aaron Rodgers situation, John Elway's my favorite NFL player of all time. Not the greatest GM, and I don't like this comparison. Will he be on the hot seat if the Drew Lock deal falls apart, if this doesn't work?
Never been to Denver, huh? Because if you ever been to Denver, this dude Teflon. I mean, I'm sitting next to Mr. Denver, so I'm a pass the baton, but he's drafted well outside the quarterback position. Philip Lindsay last year, rookie, Pro Bowler.
Undrafted.
Undrafted.
Yeah, but still on the roster. And you talk about the guys defensively that helped this team. They won a Super Bowl. You're a two-time walk away into the sunset on the field, and then you win one as executive. I think he's Teflon.
Well, he's not as Teflon as he used to be. I mean, I do a daily radio show there, and there are a lot of people not real happy with it. You know, I just have this philosophical approach. When you played for what, 12, 13 years? You did too, I did as well. I studied defensive linemen and linebackers, safety rotations and stuff. That's what I looked at for 12 years. You know, I think that a lot of guys who come from a player's perspective, like John, look at John's history. His history on the defensive side is pretty stellar. On the offensive side, offensive linemen that have been busts, quarterbacks that haven't performed very well. I think it's a struggle. Look at Ozzie Newsome was great when it comes to putting a defensive roster together all those years. But I think you tend to look at that part of the game and know what you're looking at. Like, what is a Hall of Famer? I don't know, but I'll know it when I see it. Mm-hmm. And I think when you know and you've studied defense your whole life, I think that's where his expertise has come in and why he's struggled at the quarterback.
He should be on the hot seat. Willie, who knows? For me, Drew Lock, to be put in this situation, you get to sit behind Flacco, but better yet, you get to really learn the NFL game. There's no rush to play unless Flacco gets hurt. He's with a good quarterback coach in Jordan Palmer that's literally teaching him in quarters defense, what is a safety's responsibility on the run game? What is a safety's responsibility in the pass game? So each coverage, Jordan Palmer is teaching them, this guy does this, does this, does it. So seeing it live in the NFL practices in the preseason, that should benefit him. I would hope he's not a bust, but if he's not and he doesn't become a player, yeah, John Elway needs to be held accountable because this is just the business we're in.
I think that he will be on the hot seat. They'll figure out a way, if this doesn't work, to keep him in his position, but perhaps provide him someone else in a decision-making role. That's just my guess. Look, he has won a Super Bowl as an executive.
Right.
He rolled, Peyton Manning rolled that defense. But Peyton Manning, even before that, had played really well before it just kind of fell off a cliff for him. So that probably does buy him some time, but man, they gave up on Case Keenum like that. Now they bring in Joe Flacco, and you know, Drew Lock is a different version, I think, perhaps of Blaine Gabbert, that was the Missouri quarterback. Seriously, Blaine Gabbert's very book smart, but just not real strong in the pocket. Drew Lock's not as book smart, but I don't think as a decision maker in the pocket, I watched a lot of Missouri football. I'm not sure.
But with the storyline, I mean, we got to grade him on the curve, and they will. You think about a former great of your own franchise that you actually brought back and won a Super Bowl with as a general manager. Like, that's equity in a world where Magic Johnson goes back to his former franchise and just taps out, like, whatever it is.
But Mark is in there. Mark knows what they're saying on that radio is.
They're not real happy right now. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you.
Uncle Jimmy's here with his thoughts on the show so far. I'm sure Marcellus is your big dummy of the day.
First of all, the big dummy of the day goes to the person that invited me over to dinner yesterday, and then before dinner was served, put me out during Game of Thrones because I said, "Who is that?"
Who's that? Just one of them characters?
You gotta go.
Oh, the dragon.
He told me I had to leave, man. Big dummy.
All right.
That's cold.
Here's a highlight from our discussion earlier about Giants general manager Dave Gettleman. I'm willing to wait 2 or 3 years before declaring Gettleman an imbecile for selecting Jones. We just don't have enough information now to make that declaration.
We are literally walking up to the New York Giants and Gettleman saying, and to everyone who watches sports and football, what do you think of him right now? What do you think of Jones? Let it play out. I'm with you, Whitlock. I got enough patience to see this.
All right, Uncle Jimmy, you got a take on Giants general manager Dave Gettleman?
I can see both sides of this issue. Okay.
Really? You gonna sit on the fence, huh?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that
Rip
today.
the pants.
I ain't gonna break it. Look here, man, let me tell you something. First of all, anybody can see it's no way in hell that Dwayne Haskins should have dropped down to be the second quarterback taken in the draft. You know, it shouldn't have happened like that.
Third.
We know that.
He was third.
Why?
Why?
What do you
Well, I mean, I'm saying, well,
Why, ponytail?
okay, he was, okay, look, Daniel Jones, that was the second black quarterback that was taken.
Yeah, that part.
Who was?
Daniel Jones.
Daniel.
No,
Lee
Daniel Jones was the quarterback taken by the Giants. He's from Duke.
Second.
Dwayne Haskins was the.
Oh, hell. Well, oh, hell no. Then we know he wasn't black. All right. Never mind. And let me stick with what I know.
Yeah, what
All right,
do
let me
you
tell
know?
you. Hey, let me put it like this. Dwayne Haskins. I know this kid personally, okay? I know the family. I know the dad. I know the brother. I know my brother. We used to play dominoes together. It was 9. Okay? I'm telling you, I know the daycare that the kid went to. So I'm telling you, I'm here to tell everybody.
Oh, man.
Dwayne Haskins is from good stock.
You ain't right.
All right,
Stop trolling that
what's
man.
the other side? What's the other side of the argument? You said you know both sides. What's the other side?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I remember when I shook up the game. I remember when I moved up in the draft to pick up May Decimal. Hey, bro, she wasn't on nobody's draft board. Hey, man, the fans in Kansas City was hot, especially my mama.
Whoa.
My mom liked the Mel Kiper Jr. of marriages in our family. So as soon as I announced my pick, my mama went off. She wasn't on nobody's draft board. Why are you gonna draft her? She too big for the position. Then she gonna start worrying about my health. My baby ain't but 5'7", 155 pounds. What he gonna do with all of that? She wasn't looking at it like me.
What?
All I saw was baby hair and baby fat. And at that point, I know there was a God. We was married 6 days later. You understand me?
You stupid.
Now, and I'm gonna tell you something, it was a beautiful event. We made up our own vows. That's the first time I hit her with that, you know, please believe me, sweetie, I got enough to feed the needy. Oh, bro, the bridesmaids was like, oh, girl, oh, he loved her.
That worked? You needed a lineman, huh?
Hey,
You had to
wait,
drive?
that's he hit me with the, I love it when you call me Big Mama. Oh, bro, everything was good up until she threw the bouquet.
I ain't talking to you.
She got greedy. Hey, Marcellus, She made a bouquet made out of drumettes. Bro, she threw this bouquet, man.
That's a big girl.
It was
and you was over there eating it
eyelashes,
too.
Lee press-on nails, and that high-dollar weave all over everywhere.
We got to go to our approval rating
gotta
for
get
Dave
to
They went to
Gettleman.
throw rice, it was shrimp fried rice.
I'm going to give him
it was
a
a mess.
52 overall, 12 job performance, 6 all-time greatness, 23 character, 11 authenticity, 52.
This is the first in the show. I got him way lower than you, man. This dumpster fire came in
Write
with the
that
bad
down.
repetition. But forget all that. I don't care about you, Gettleman. Do better. I got a gift for you,
There
big
you
dog,
go.
representing the show.
Oh,
Happy
wow.
birthday, big
Jay
dog.
Breezy. Thank you very much.
My man, Five Deuce over here,
I
baby.
hope
Look
so.
at you. You know what it is.
I
There
know
it
what-
is. Slauson and Crenshaw Blue, representing.
Yup,
Man, I
yup.
thought it was Casa Dragon. Oh, it is.
Faithful ass.
Well, he look at me. You can tell he ain't used to give.